The Raiders open up a couple training camp practices at Allegiant Stadium that's free to Raider Nation. What do you got to do, and when is it going to be? That plus a whole lot more comes up on Wednesday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for July 10th, 2024.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making this show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast to get the latest edition of the show as soon as it becomes available. As always, if you're checking us out on YouTube, you know we appreciate that. The show continues to grow each and every day, and that's because of the support of Raider Nation and because of the job that my man Ari does on the daily, making sure we're on YouTube looking good and sounding good. We definitely appreciate him. Again, he takes a lot of pride in the work that he does, and it does not go unnoticed. So shout out to Ari. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. I'm on Twitter as well, at your boy Q254. And we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. Got a lot of calls and texts coming up in segment number 3, as we normally do. A lot of feedback from Raider Nation. We definitely appreciate your calls or texts. Whether you agree with me or you don't agree with me, with whatever we're talking about, it's fine to chime in on the show. And like I said, it's definitely appreciated. So we'll get that coming up in segment number 3. Segment number 2, Raiders wide receiver Devonta Adams. He was on a media tour on Tuesday to promote Receiver, which is the new docu-series on Netflix. It's an Omaha production. Matter of fact, it's out right now. And he was on shows like Up and Adams with Kay Adams. He was up on FS1, Undisputed with Keyshawn Johnson. And he was also on ESPN's NFL Live. And with my ESPN affiliation, I was able to get my hands on the conversation that he had with Laura Rutledge. Really good stuff. You'll hear that conversation, not only promoting the docu-series, but talking about the Raiders, talking about AP, the quarterback situation, and more. You'll hear from Devonta Adams in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Here in segment number 1, news and notes of the day, as I always do. And we'll jump right into it after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. So off top, it's funny, I saw this Baldy breakdown. I always love to hear from Brian Baldinger, but every time I hear a Baldy breakdown, I'm always thinking it's about Max Crosby, and 99% of the time, it is about Max Crosby. But this was a really good one that went back to the Raiders on Christmas Day when they defeated the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City, the last time that the Chiefs lost in 2023, and it featured Malcolm Koonce. And he really highlighted what Malcolm Koonce was able to do that day, and obviously what he was able to do in the second half of the season, starting on November 1st when AP took over. I thought this was a really good breakdown on Malcolm Koonce, who, oh, by the way, is going into a contract year, and the Raiders may decide sign him sooner rather than later, including maybe a chance to sign him in training camp, or they could say, hey, you did really well in 2023. We'd like to see you do it again in 2024, and then they'll just take the chance if they can get him done. Maybe they'll have to put him on a franchise tag if he has a big year like I expect him to do. But here was a really good breakdown from Brian Baldinger from the NFL Network, little Baldy's breakdown on Malcolm Koonce.
Christmas Day, this was a great matchup. The Raiders came to play. So did Malcolm Koonce of the Raiders. Like, once you take it on, Jawan Taylor gets off the block, down goes Pacheco. I mean, was there a more productive pass rusher in the NFL in the last month of the season than Malcolm Koonce? Here he is coming on Mahomes. Mahomes steps up, he spins. Down goes Mahomes. That's a nasty spin right there. Now, in the run game, how about this take block right here? Switching assignments between the tight end and the tackle. Watch him set the edge. Keep his outside arm free. Pacheco comes. Like, he had 6 sacks, tackle for losses, forced fumbles, you name it. Watch this effort. Watch the elite takeoff here. Watch it. Chop, 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 chop. Now, Mahomes is stepping up, and he just keeps coming. You know, you just got to keep coming. You just keep hustling, all right? Pretty soon, you might be able to get there. And then when you get there, let Mahomes feel your punch. That's pretty good right there. And then this. Max on one side, Malcolm on the other side. Here they come right at you. All right, one feeding the other. Both dipping and ripping. All right, Malcolm misses him. Max is chasing him. And Malcolm finishes him. And flags are flying. Malcolm Koonce finished the season looking like a Raider. Can't wait to show you what he does this year.
Malcolm Koonce, 17 games he played, 8 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. All that came after November 1st. His rookie year, if you remember going back, he had 2 sacks. He only played in about 5 games, just a small handful of snaps that he had, but you saw he had some opportunity, he had a little bit of bend. You saw he had something there. And then the next season, the first year with Josh McDaniels, a whole lot of nothing. Then last year, half the season with Josh McDaniels, a whole lot of nothing. Once AP took over November 1st, all of a sudden you got somewhere. So my expectations for Malcolm Koonce this year with the addition of Christian Wilkins, you know what Max Crosby's going to bring to the table. Tyree Wilson is all of a sudden healthy, so he could be a nice addition as well. I'm expecting Malcolm Koonce, who won't get as much attention as Max and Christian, I'm expecting him to have a big season this year. I'm looking at double-digit sacks, and I would have no problem if the Raiders went ahead and extended him during the training camp period and just made sure that homegrown talent, stayed there. You can never have enough edge rushers, but obviously that's a decision that Tom Telesco is going to have to make. Also, on Tuesday, the Raiders decided to do something that I thought was pretty cool, and that's host open practices at Allegiant Stadium. They actually sent an email out to the media. That's how I got word of it, and then they sent a lot of invitations out to Raider Nation. But the email that I received, it said, the Raiders will host 2 open practices at Allegiant Stadium in August. As the Silver and Black prepare for the 2024 season, the practices will be free and open to the public, and fans wishing to attend are encouraged to register for tickets at www.raiders.com/training-camp/open-practice. That's raiders.com/training-camp/open-practice. So before you go and do that, and maybe you already have, the open practice will be held on Wednesday, August 14th and Tuesday, August 20th. Both sessions will begin at 6 p.m. with doors opening at 5 p.m. Ticket inventory is limited. Even though they're free, it doesn't cost you anything, you still have to get tickets, and they ask, please RSVP by Wednesday, August 7th at 5 p.m. Here's the kicker. By Tuesday evening, Niles Edagosa, who's part of Franchise Sports Media, also one of our new teammates at our sister station, ESPN Las Vegas, part of the Las Vegas Sports Network, she actually went to the website, again, raiders.com/training-camp/open-practice, and got in line, basically, virtually got in line, right? And then she tweeted out, it says, "You are now in line. Due to demand, you may experience an extended wait time. Once you reach the front, you may begin to shop. There are 8,551 people in front of you." So as you could tell, they asked to respond by Wednesday, August 7th at 5 p.m. This was July 9th. By that evening, the invite came out earlier in the day. By that evening, there was 8,551 people in front of Nye who was trying to get tickets to be able to attend the free events that are happening in August, on August 14th and Tuesday, August 20th at Allegiant Stadium. So I don't know if you've tried already, but my best guess is there's probably not any more tickets available. I think it's a great event that they're doing. I know that GM Tom Telesco told us before mandatory minicamp got wrapped up that he wants to do training camps that are open. He wants to have a lot of fans there. He says it provides extra energy to the players. He loves that. That was the experience he had with the Chargers. Obviously, later on this month when training camp opens up, that's not going to be the case where it's just an open free-for-all for fans to show up. It's not that, because they're not in their own market. So I do believe at some point the Raiders are going to find a spot where they can go and be there consistently and be able to just open up training camp. That's not going to be this year, unfortunately, but I do think it was a cool event that they decided to do, a good gesture that they decided to do, to have Raider Nation be able to go to Allegiant Stadium and check out a couple of open practices again on August 14th and August 20th. Unfortunately, as Nye experienced on Tuesday, 8,551 people were in front of her at the time, and that was early on Tuesday evening. So a lot of Raider Nation will be in the building for those open practices. I definitely look forward to them. Of course, I look forward to all the practices from training camp. That's obviously going to be in Costa Mesa, to when they break, go into the preseason games, get back to their facility there in Henderson, and all those practices. I look forward to all of that and see how this Raiders team is starting to put together and being built in 2024, because I do think that they have an opportunity to be a really special team. Also, one other little piece of news that came out, and I didn't make a big deal about it on my radio show on Tuesday because, well, Just don't really know how exactly it's going to happen. But Richard Seymour, who's been around the Raiders a lot, he was part of the committee that helped decide who the head coach was going to be and the GM of the team was going to be. It was announced on Tuesday, not by the Raiders, but Pro Football Talk. Mike Florio and company put it out first. That's where I saw it, that Richard Seymour was going to be also teaming up with Tom Brady to be a part owner of the Silver and Black. We all know that Mark Davis has a plan to sell a percentage of the Raiders to Tom Brady. Now Richard Seymour, also a Hall of Famer, a guy who did play for the Raiders, a guy who was in the locker room after Week 18's victory over the Denver Broncos when all the Raider greats were in there. He plans on being part of that ownership group as well. So it's about, from what the report said, about 10% ownership of the Silver and Black. So they don't make any personnel decisions. They don't make any big-time decisions, but just a couple former players, a couple former greats, obviously Hall of Famers, Gold Jackets, that plan on being part owners of the Silver and Black. Coming up in segment number 2, another Raider was making his way around the media on Tuesday. That was wide receiver Devonta Adams, to talk about the docu-series that you can actually stream right now on Netflix. Receiver, multiple receivers, and even a tight end across the National Football League are featured in this. He was there to talk about that. He joined ESPN. I got that conversation. You'll hear it next here on the Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is Game Time. What is Game Time? Glad you asked. It's an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. It makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. Great last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. You could pick out any games that you're looking to go to. It doesn't necessarily have to be baseball. It doesn't even have to be sports. You can go to the theater. You can go to a comedy show. You can go to any kind of event in your area or other areas, and Game Time has you covered. Again, great last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for any kind of event. They have the flash deals, zone deals, all-in prices. You can even see the view from your seat. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you even buy the tickets. And what's most important, lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticket industry. Right now, take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time and other tickets as well. Download the Game Time app, create the account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create the account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL, that's LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to get into the conversation that Raiders wide receiver Devonta Adams had with Laura Rutledge from ESPN's NFL Live. It's funny, the show was on while I was on my radio show, so I'm sitting in Studio Q where I'm sitting right now, and I look up and I see Devonta talking to Laura Rutledge, but I'm on the radio, so I can't hear what he's saying. Then later on in the evening, I'm doing my night show on ESPN, Game Night, and all of a sudden a replay of it pops up, and once again, I'm seeing Devonta, I'm seeing Laura Rutledge, but I can't hear them because, again, still doing a radio show. So I was able to reach out to some folks at ESPN and actually get the sound, and it was a really good interview that Laura did with Devonta on NFL Live, and it had to do with the Netflix Docuseries Receiver. And what is that? It's a new docu-series. It's a part of Omaha Productions. Devonta Adams of the Raiders is a part of it. Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Lions, Justin Jefferson of the Vikings, and the 49ers have multiple participants in tight end George Kittle and wide receiver Deebo Samuel. So before we get into the conversation, Devonta and Laura Rutledge from ESPN, I want you to actually hear the trailer for Receiver. There's a lot of docu-series. There's a lot of reality shows, like Hard Knocks has 3 different versions that we'll see this year. One that has to do with the Giants. That's going on right now. The Bears will be in season, and then the AFC North will be featured at the end of the season. Well, this is another docu-series that sounds like and looks like it's going to be pretty good. So before we get into the conversation with Devonta Adams, here is the trailer for the new Netflix docu-series Receiver.
I have an alter ego.
He calls that dance the gritty.
And when I start putting these chains on, start putting the teeth in.
I do catch passes. I do score touchdowns. I get to do everything.
What's up, baby?
I'm like running back, kick returner, receiver.
He does it all.
I'm big on celebrations. If I dance, I need it to go viral.
Let's go!
It's fun.
Bad hit to a sensitive area.
Oh, that sucked. Oh, that was mean. Harrison, my wife's mad at you. But I don't know if you guys would like it as much as I do.
I'm the most competitive person on planet Earth. I can go be a superhero on the field, and then I can come home and be a superhero for my babies.
Oh, that might be a little too big for them. As a kid, you just dream about the Super Bowl, but what is it gonna take to really win one?
My wife, Claire, she's my battery. She recharges me.
High five. The Lions haven't won a division title in 30 years, and the time is now.
He looks so cute.
I love you. Good luck.
This is my first entry to make me miss a game. I'm like, dog, I gotta be out there in the field. I never played to be the richest. I played because I love the game.
It's not about me,
So, Daddy.
but I feel like it's my responsibility to give them exactly what they came to see.
The last time we went to the Super Bowl, we didn't win.
Really sucks, but I'm big into speaking things into existence.
I will be back here, and I will be back with a vengeance.
Let us feel the heart beating. The blood pumping.
Hey, this is my crib.
Feel the wet grass. The stadium slowly coming to life. May you have all the power that you need today to finish what must be done.
To the end zone! I found you!
My benchmark is not wins and losses. It's greatness.
So there it is. Again, it features Devonta Adams, Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Lions, Justin Jefferson of the Vikings, 49ers tight end George Kittle, and their wide receiver Deebo Samuel, all in this special. Now, as I mentioned, Devonta was making his way around the media on Tuesday. He stopped with Up and Adams, K. Adams show on FanDuel TV, talked to Skip Bayless and Keyshawn Johnson on Undisputed on FS1, and also talked to ESPN's Laura Rutledge. Matter of fact, he was on ESPN radio with Freddie Coleman and Harry Douglas. Freddie and Harry on ESPN radio. Had a chance to talk with them as well. But I got the conversation here. Laura Rutledge and Devonta Adams from NFL Live earlier on Tuesday. Really good conversation, talking all things Raiders and receiver. Check it out.
We now welcome one of the stars of the Receiver Docuseries, Devonta Adams of the Las Vegas Raiders. So great to have you, Devonta. We just saw footage from a full week of your life. Were those camera crews really with you 24/7 like that?
I mean, they're around. Honestly, the idea of having that many cameras around is what kind of had me a little bit, in and out of the deal. I wasn't fully sold to begin with. Just because I'm a little bit more of a chill dude, I wouldn't say that I'm used to having that many cameras around. Obviously on game days, but not as much in my regular life the way that it was. So it was a little bit of a change, but honestly they did a really good job of not being too invasive, and it was low key, and they were able to kind of capture some stuff without being all the way in our business. So it wasn't too bad.
What are you most excited for people to see as they watch this docuseries?
Well, I just feel like they'll be able to learn a little bit more about the person, whether it's me, JJ, George, Amon-Ra, or Deebo, whoever it is. They'll be able to learn more about what goes into, us being the players that we are on the field, whether it's our support system, our work ethic, the way we practice, the way we watch tape, and you saw what a typical week is like. So it's a lot of the stuff that goes into our job. So obviously there's a lot more than just us that contribute to that as well. So it's good to see some of the outside things and outside interests we have, things that our kids are up to, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I think people are going to love that. I mean, so many of you guys are known for what you do on the field, but there's so much more to you and a lot of depth, as you mentioned. Now, you are, though, always going to be one of the top receivers as long as you're in this league. And the wide receiver market has absolutely exploded since you entered the NFL in 2014. Calvin Johnson was the highest paid that year, a little over $16 million per year. Now, as you know, Justin Jefferson just signed a deal for $35 million a year. What do you think that says, Devonta, about the importance of the wide receiver position in today's game?
Well, I mean, the market's only moving because the position's getting better. I mean, year after year. I was just talking to somebody earlier today, and when I first got in the league, there was really only like 3 guys that were at the top of the league, and I like to think that, I mean, we're looking at these numbers right here where Julio, I remember in 19 thinking that $22 million a year was just absolutely insane. And that was a boost that he got to get there. And then looking at, Justin now making quarterback money is absurd. And I mean, it's great for the position, and I'm happy to see it, because I want people to understand just how much goes into our position and just how valuable we are, especially when you are, one of the best at your position. You obviously deserve to get compensated as such.
Yeah, and you've got a couple more years on your deal, but I'm sure it'll just keep compounding by the time you're going to get paid again too, which is good.
No doubt.
There we go. Listen, the Raiders had a busy offseason. How important was it to the team that Antonio Pierce remained the head coach of your team?
I mean, it was imperative for us. I mean, you saw guys like me, Josh Jacobs, Max Crosby, I mean, pretty much everybody, Rob Spillane, we all were, harping on how important it was to have him come back. And I mean, he showed it himself. It wasn't too much that needed to be said, but anything that he didn't show, we definitely went in and talked to Mark or anybody else that was a part of that decision, just so that they understood. Mark isn't in the building every day. Mark Davis, that is. He's not in the building every single day, so he may miss a few things that, we definitely won't, and things that we can share and shed light on to ensure that we got that spot. And I mean, from one week to the next, when he wasn't the head coach to when he was the interim, I mean, you saw a drastic difference as far as what out of the same players that you saw a week ago that weren't contributing the way that they were. You get somebody in there that can kind of get a hold of the locker room and lead men the way that he can. I mean, that's a very critical piece to being a head coach. So obviously he was the most deserving guy for it.
Yeah, you're somebody that doesn't pay a whole ton of attention to the media, I know, but I'm sure you were aware that your name was out there. People were saying, maybe Davante would leave. Instead, you reaffirmed your commitment to this Raiders organization. What are your expectations for this group this season, and why you really wanted to stick around to continue it on there in Vegas?
Well, I don't have any expectations as far as how many games I'm expecting to win. I just expect, based off the talent that we have, for us to maximize it this year. There's no excuses. We got everything that we need, just about, and just keep putting the pieces together, keep working together, and, to be the team that we're supposed to be. I mean, we showed flashes, even the 22-year under Josh McDaniels, we showed flashes of being a great football team, and obviously didn't end up with as many wins as we would have liked to have. But when you look at the way that even the losses that we had, you look at the way we lost those games, it was, by a very slim margin, and we were in every single game, just didn't finish them the way we needed to. So this team has a lot of promise. We just got to find a way to finish better and start faster, and I think we'll be okay. We'll put ourselves in a good position.
Yeah, some people wondered if the Raiders would take a quarterback in the draft, and instead they stick with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew joining the fold. What have you seen so far this offseason from the quarterbacks?
A lot of competition, and not even amongst each other, just competing to be better every single day. And that's really all you can ask from guys, like Aiden, who obviously doesn't have much experience. The world's trying to beat up on him and say he's not able to do it. And, I'd say the same thing I said earlier. At the end of the day, if you wanted to say a guy's first year is going to determine what his career is going to be like, then you would have never, you would have never thought that you and I would be having this conversation about me being on a docu-series about, playing this position. So at the end of the day, you gotta lock in on your guys, give them chances, and that's exactly what I'm doing.
You guys recently had your media day photo shoot for the Raiders. What'd you think of the photos of Minshew?
I mean, once you get to know Gardner, it's really not a surprise. I mean, that's the type of guy he is. I love that he got the Uncle Rico going right there from Napoleon Dynamite. Like that's exactly who he is, and we appreciate him driving his little van that he lives in and his whole little weird deal that he does things. It's not my style, but I love that he is who he is, and he sticks to that.
Hey, listen, he's committed to it either way, right? And it's entertaining for us, so we'll take it. Davante, thank you so much for joining us, and we cannot wait to watch you in this docu-series. Just always appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Good to see you.
So right now, the Netflix docuseries Receiver is out. You can actually stream all 8 episodes on Netflix. So if you have an opportunity, you're trying to get a little bit NFL fix, and you want to learn about Davante not only on the field, but off the field, behind the scenes, how he is when he gets home with his family, his kids, something that means a whole lot to him. And he's, the older statesman. He's the guy that's getting older, even though he's still a really good wide receiver. He's not one of those dudes that has fallen off. He's still fantastic, and he could be a big-time addition for this Raiders offense, and is expected to be a big-time addition to this Raiders offense this upcoming year, as Luke Getsy and him are very familiar with each other from their time together in Green Bay. But I thought that was a really good conversation that was definitely worth bringing to the table here on the Locked On Raiders podcast. Coming up in segment number 3, your calls and texts. We have that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. We'll do that next. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with a call from Wine Country Raider. He's calling to talk about the state of the team convo we were having on Tuesday's show, to talk about the strength, the weakness, and the biggest area of improvement. Here he is, Wine Country Raider.
What's up, Q? It's Wine Country Raider calling. Just wanted to comment on your strength, weakness, and improvement conversation, and I just kind of want to echo what you've already said. I think the strength is definitely our defensive line. I would say our weakness, I think you could go with offensive line and the quarterback situation, just because they're both kind of unknown. I'm expecting the offensive line to take a big step forward, but we don't really know. And yeah, I'd say mainly it's the quarterback situation. Even if one of these guys do work out, I don't think that they are going to be the strength of our team. I think if they just play well, and just get the ball to our players, then I think that'll be good enough for now. And then our biggest improvement is by far it's Antonio Pierce in the leadership of our team. You saw it, just the same guys, when Josh McDaniels is here versus the same guys with Antonio Pierce. It was just a huge jump, and people seem to not really understand how much a head coach and leader can change the vibe of the team. Guys who are just there, maybe if they collect a check, all of a sudden are motivated to be like, you know what? I actually want to play right now. I actually want to play hard and do my best. So, yeah, that's all I got. Definitely excited about this season. Training camp can't come any quicker. And thanks for all you do, Q, and shout out Raider Nation. Just win, baby.
Wine Country, thanks for the call. Appreciate you as always. Defensive line, no-brainer. Strength, right? Weakness, you pick potentially the offensive line, and there are new pieces there, right? The left guard is going to be new with JPJ. If he goes and earns that job, I believe he will. Jackson Powers-Johnson. The center is obviously Andre James, so he's still there. But Dylan Parham kicks over from the left guard spot to the right guard, and even though we know he could play that, it's still something he hasn't played, with the Raiders as of late. He's been slotted in that left guard spot, so he gets back to the right guard spot, and then we're assuming that Thayer Mumford is going to be there. So I can totally understand where you're coming from. Those guys got to come together. I do believe that they will, and hopefully, unlike the first year of Josh McDaniels, it won't take 5 or 6 weeks to decide who the starting 5 is on the offensive line. They need to get that solidified early in training camp, and I do believe that they will. And I like what you said about AP and his coaching and his leadership as far as the biggest improvement. You could tell by the way that the Raiders reacted last season, and that's why I can't wait to see what this team looks like this year, now that this team is truly Antonio Pierce's. It's his way all the time. I'm excited about his opportunity. We'll see what it looks like, but I do believe this team is going to be really good. But thank you so much for that call. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Drew in Hesperia. Says, hey, Q, it's Drew from Hesperia. I appreciate your work. I'm a born L.A. Raider fan from San Pedro, California. So my question is, how does a team go about selecting their captains? Is it up to the players or coaches? And besides Max, who else would be a captain? Go Raiders. That's Drew in Hesperia. Thanks for the text. I do appreciate you. And yeah, it's a combination of the players, they have their vote. The coaches, they have their vote. What they've got going on in training camp. Max, no doubt about it, is going to be a captain. I'm expecting Devonta Adams to be a captain as well. You know, it's the blue chip players. It's the guys that really step up, the guys that not only are great players but also great leaders on the team. Normally, your quarterback is a captain as well. We'll see if, you know, Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew earns that. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those guys does. I wouldn't be surprised if Robert Spillane is a captain. I also, if I'm looking at the Raiders, I would look at either A.J. Cole or Daniel Carlson, probably A.J. Cole as a captain. I wouldn't be shocked if any of those guys, right? And you can even look at an offensive lineman. If there's someone like a Colton Miller, I can see him being named as a captain. And sometimes it ranges, man. Sometimes a team will have 3 captains. Sometimes a team will have 6 or 7. There was one year where the Raiders had a bunch of captains, right? So I don't know how Antonio Pierce is going to do it. Again, it's his team this year, so it's going to be his way. We'll see what it looks like. But Max, Devontae, Colton Miller, and A.J. Cole, I feel pretty comfortable with, will probably be captains for sure on this team. But again, that'll come up to the players and coaches to come up with the decision collectively. But thanks so much for the text. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Brian in Pittsburgh. He's calling to talk about a few players that we should be looking at and focusing in on that he hasn't really heard us talk a lot about. And he's been hearing this from multiple outlets. Here he is, Brian in Pittsburgh.
Hey, Q. Brian over here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, man. Been a while since I called, so it's off season. Things are a little slow, but we're ramping up, man. We got about a month till the preseason. I was listening to your podcast this morning, listening to Hondo, and Hondo and I think it was Zeke. We're talking about a player that like nobody's really talking about. I know. You've had some calls. They touched on a couple players. I actually have three players, and I think you touched on one of them, and I'm going to start with them. It's just Trey Tucker. I believe, about a month ago or so, you guys were talking about how Devonta said that dude is working. I mean, he learned so much throughout the year last year, keeping his feet in bounds, not juggling the ball, focusing on just moving the sticks and basically open up the field by going deep. And I really, really think that Trey Tucker could have a little bit of a breakout season. I'm not saying 1,000 yards, anything like that, but this guy might find the end zone 8 to 10 times if he keeps that motor going, which I clearly see no signs of that slowing down. Second guy's Zeus, man, Samir White. That dude is freaking chiseled. He is a block, and dude, he's going to. My bold prediction for him, I hope he gets 75% of the carries. He might not, but if he gets that amount of carries, 75%, my bold prediction on the year is Samir White will be in the top 10 running backs broken tackles on this season. You watch him down the stretch last year; he was absolutely running people over. The way Josh Jacobs did for us for 5 years. Zeus, I think Zeus is long awaited for this opportunity. He is ready for this opportunity, and he's ready to put his nose in the dirt week 1. Third guy, final guy, on my 3 minutes here. But, everybody was shocked that we took Brock Bowers, everything. Everybody's talking about how dynamic he is. He's going to get these jet sweeps. He's going to come out of the backfield. He's going to line up in the slot. He's going to ride receiver, 11 personnel, whatever. Let's talk about Michael Mayer. This guy, he came out about a month ago and said that he wasn't having fun last year. We all know the reason to that. I don't even want to touch on it. But now there's a little fire lit under him. Obviously, it started with Antonio Pierce, and now he's got a running mate on the other side in Brock Bowers, who I think Michael Mayer is going to push Brock Bowers and vice versa. So they're going to push each other, and they're just going to get better and better and better. 3 minutes, I think, is about up to you. So, all right, man. Go Raiders.
Brian, appreciate the call, brother. Trey Tucker, we have talked about him quite a bit. I think he's in line to be a big-time weapon. From everything that I've heard, he's really been working hard, and that's the key is his improvement, his jump from year 1 to year 2. His hands and his footwork. If that is improved, he could be a big-time weapon with that speed. And even when I got a chance to speak with him at Raiders Media Day, it was JT the Brick, Eric Allen, and myself, and we got to talk to Trey Tucker. It just seemed like the game slowed down to him. And if it has, and he can still play at the same speed that he's playing, then all of a sudden the Raiders have themselves a really good good player. I've been calling him a guy I look at as a potential X factor for the Raiders in 2024. Zamir, he has a chance to get it done, prove he can be the guy. He had that chance the last 4 games of the season. We got a small sample size. Can he do it over the course of a full season? That's going to be the question. Alexander Madison, I believe, is going to be a really good compliment to him, so that's a nice 1-2 punch. And then you throw Dylan Lobby in there as well. Michael Mayer, you mentioned him. I've talked about him. I'm excited what he can do for every reason that you mentioned. He's a guy that was coming on really strong until he got injured at the end of last season, missed those couple of games, but he's just a tight end through and through. And if you remember, him and Brock Bowers, the last couple of years were both some of the best tight ends in college football. So the Raiders have a very good, talented tight end room, blue chip guys in that room, and I do believe that they're going to be a really good 1-2 punch. I've heard a lot of people say Michael Mayer is going to be traded. I don't see that at all. I see this being a great 1-2 punch that whoever the quarterback is, whether it's Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew, are going to really love to have at their disposal, both of those guys. Thanks for the call. Appreciate you as always, brother. Up next, got a text from Jason in Annapolis. He says, "Hey, Q, show's been great. Keep up the good work. My question today is, have you heard anything further about the kick returners? Have you figured out what type of player fits the new format best? I'm willing to bet a third down running back build is going to be more effective than your traditional speed wide receiver. So Abdullah over, say, a Tucker. Appreciate your insight here. P.S. might not have been completely intentional, but the Raiders did end up passing on the quarterback position in the draft. LOL." That's Jason in Annapolis. Thanks for the text. Appreciate you. And, yeah, I mean, we'll know more in training camp as I get to see more. But right now, I'll tell you, the guy who looked the most comfortable, in my opinion, with the new kick return is Dylan Lobby, the 6th-round pick out of New Hampshire. You need more of and I think what guys are looking for are guys that have speed but have that straight line speed as well, where they can get the ball on the fly, they can get the ball off the ground, off a bounce, and just go, right? Maybe put the foot in the dirt, make one guy miss, and just go through an arm tackle and then be gone. I think you're going to see a lot of that. Of course, you want the speed element as well. You want the elusiveness, but it's going to be tricky, and there's going to be a bunch of different bodies that you see them roll through. But I'll tell you right now, if I had to bet money, and I'm not, if I had to go to FanDuel and say, hey, who's going to be the Raiders' main kick returner right now on July 10th, I would say Dylan Lobby is going to be the guy who's going to get the most work at that position. But again, it's July 10th. It's real early in the process, and we'll see a lot more in training camp. Then I can give you a better idea. But that'll be the big key right there, is what they're able to do in training camp. But, Jason, thanks for the text. We'll close things out with a call from Jacob in Hanford. He's calling to talk about the Raiders' defense, where he thinks that they should be this season, and has something to say about other great teams' defenses and where their offenses were ranked. Here he is, Jacob in Hanford.
What's up, Q? This is Jacob from Hanford. I got a question, obviously, about the offense, about the quarterback. Same old, right? But here's the thing. I'm looking at our defense, right, and everybody's kind of unanimous, at least in Raider Nation. I know the national media isn't giving us the credit just yet, but in Raider Nation, we're pretty convinced this defense is legit. We have a defense that ought to be top 5, and if they are not top 5, it is a huge disappointment. I guess if they're 6, it's not too bad, but still, that's the basic gist of where our defense is. We have a defense that should be the number 1 defense, at least. I mean, at least top 5, but if we're being honest, the talent that we have, the coaching experience we have with Patrick Graham and a guy like Marvin Lewis, these guys are ready to make a top defense in the NFL. With that being said, I am reminded of all the defenses in history's past that we look at fondly throughout history. Like the Buccaneers, that won John Gruden, the Ravens that won, with Trent Dilfer at quarterback, the Bears that won with Jim McMahon, and it wasn't too bad, but still, I want to go back and look at the offenses for those teams. So, we go back to the Buccaneers with John Gruden, and they had, I'm blanking out on the quarterback. His number 14, I remember that. Can't remember his name. But they ranked 18th offensively. 18th. That's all right. That's middle of the pack. That's average-ish. And the Baltimore Ravens, when they won with Trent Dilfer, they ranked 16th. That's a little bit better. Still kind of the same area. And the 1985 Bears with Jim McMahon, they were ranked 7th. So it's not so cut and dry. I know Jim McMahon is a little bit better than those other guys. but his career didn't turn out too well after there's all the injuries and whatever you want to say. But our offense should be somewhere around middle of the pack if we're going to be successful this year. If we have any dreams of doing anything serious this year, they got to be 16, 18, top 10 close, like the top of the 10. What is it that we have to do? What is it that we have to see from a guy like Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew to make us a defense that goes 16, 18? Is it even on them? Does Zeus have to step up big time? Do we have to just be really good with gadget plays? The guys like Trey Tucker and Brock Bowers have to step up. You let me know, Q. What do we have to see from our offense to be a contender this year? All right, Q, appreciate everything you do. You take it easy. Go Raiders.
Jacob, thanks again. As always, man, you bring up some good points about where the Raiders need to be and where you think that they should be, and you're talking about a top 5 defense, and that'd be fantastic. And if they are, again, and I said this about, I didn't go all the way back to the great Bears, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or even the Baltimore Ravens defenses. Those were historically great defenses. I didn't go that far back, but I did go back to the Minnesota Vikings back in 2017 when Case Keenum was the quarterback. There are other teams that you can look at and say, hey, they had a really good defense and their quarterback play wasn't fantastic, but they were still a good team based off having the strength of the defense. And you're right, their quarterbacks weren't fantastic. Their offenses weren't top 5. They weren't top 10. They were in the mid-teens like you talked about. Brad Johnson, Trent Dilfer, Jim McMahon. Those are all 3 different examples. But again, those were historically good, defenses. So I look at it like this, and I've been saying it for a long time, is that what the Raiders need offensively is good, consistent quarterback play. That's it. Good, consistent quarterback play. Yes, Zamir White has to play a role. The running game has to play a role. For this West Coast offense to work, the running game has to be heavily involved. Yes, that's absolutely true. But you have to have good, consistent quarterback play. Elite doesn't have to be. Great doesn't have to be. Good and consistent is what it needs to be. If they can get that, I say it all the time, you don't always have to be a 10. If you can give me a consistent 7, I can work with that. And if the Raiders can get a consistent 7 out of their quarterback play, they can work with that, and they can have an opportunity to win plenty of games in 2024 and surprise some folks. But again, they've got to get that figured out. But thanks for the call, Jacob. It's always great to hear from you, my man. Just like Jason, it's great to hear from you, Brian in Pittsburgh, Drew, and Wine Country Raider. We appreciate all the calls and all the feedback, and we're just going to keep this party rolling. That's what we do each and every day. Seems like there's more news and notes, even though it's the quiet time of the year. It seems like there's always something going on in the NFL, and there's always something going on with the silver and black, and I'm not mad at that. We'll have more news and notes tomorrow. We'll have more calls and texts, and we'll have plenty of conversation here on the Locked On Raiders podcast. So until then, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.